8 sub 3 to move that we do extend time to enable us sit beyond 2 p.m. I so move, Mr. President.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'd like to second the motion that we do adjust our rule to extend time for us to complete other items on the other paper. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this hallowed chamber do extend the time of its sitting beyond 2 o'clock to enable us conclude the items on the other paper. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Well, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I stand to move that the bill be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'd like to second the motion that the Supplementary Appropriation Bill 2023 be read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the motion has been moved and seconded that this bill be now read third time. Not third time. Those who are in support of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation with total sum of 2,176,791,286,033 naira only, of which 18 billion naira only is for statutory transfers, 992,802,015,985 naira only is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 1,165,989,270,049 naira only is for contribution to the development funds for capital expenditure for the year ending on 31 December 2023. Third reading.
Distinguished colleagues, a bill for an act to authorize the issue from the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation of the total sum of 2,796,791,286,033 naira only, of which 18 billion naira only is for statutory transfers, 1,033,471,162,373 naira is for recurrent non-debt expenditure, while the sum of 1,125,320,123 million, 1,025,320,123,660 million naira only is for contributions to the Development Fund for capital expenditure for the year ending on the 31st day of December 2023. The bill is read for the third time and passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jonah Williams Etten on the need for the federal government to support citizens affected by the communal clashes between Ovonum and Ofatura in Cross River Central Senatorial District with relief package. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Jonah Williams Etten.
Distinguished Senator Jonah Williams.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Etten Jonah Williams. I represent Cross River Central. I rise on a motion the need for the federal government to support citizens affected by the communal clash between Ovonum and Ofatura in Cross River State Central Senatorial District with relief package. Mr. President, the Senate notes that the Ovonum and Ofatura communities in Obubra local government area of Cross River State have a long history of peaceful coexistence but unfortunately, recent events have led to a breakdown in this harmony. Also notes that the clash between these communities have resulted in loss of lives, destruction of properties, displacement of families, and a general sense of insecurity among the residents. Concerned that the affected citizens are currently in dire need of humanitarian assistance to help rebuild their lives and communities. Also concerned that many families have been left homeless and without necessities such as food, water, and shelter. Disturbed that the conflict has caused the untimely death of many people, burning and destruction of properties worth millions of naira. Accordingly, the Senate resolved to urge the military and other security agencies to deploy security personnel to the affected communities to restore peace and order, protect the lives and properties of the residents, and prevent any further escalation of this conflict. 2, also urge that the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to map out an intervention scheme and provide relevant relief materials to the affected communities to help the citizens regain some semblance of normalcy in their lives. Further urge that the Federal Ministry of Health, through the relevant agencies, to carry out an urgent community disease prevalence diagnosis and provide medical support to the communities affected by these communal clashes. Equally urge Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation to provide support to the affected communities. 5, the Senate mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure relevant agencies comply. So move, sir.
Distinguished Senator Asukwa Ikpoyan.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second this motion, ably read by my colleague, distinguished Senator Etten Williams. I so move.
Any contribution? None. Distinguished colleagues, let's go to the prayers. Prayer 1, urge the military and other security agencies to deploy security personnel to the affected communities to restore peace and order, protect the lives and properties of the residents, and prevent any further escalation of the conflict. Those in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, also urge the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to map out an intervention scheme and provide relevant relief materials to the affected communities to help the citizens regain some semblance of normalcy in their lives. Those in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3, further urge the Federal Ministry of Health through its relevant agencies to carry out an urgent community disease prevalence diagnosis and provide medical support to the communities affected by the communal clashes. Those in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, equally urge the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation to provide support to the affected communities. Those in support of prayer 4 say aye, and those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 5, mandate the Committee on Legislative Compliance to ensure the relevant agencies comply with these resolutions. Those in support of prayer 5 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Let me thank very distinguished Senator Ethan Williams for bringing the plight of these people to the fore, and pray that our committees on legislative compliance will immediately step into action to ensure that the relevant agencies so mentioned comply with these resolutions of the Senate. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, the sixth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Osita Ungo on the comprehensive review. Mr. President, distinguished colleague, the sixth order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Osita Ungo on the need to comprehensively review the input and output values of the Nigerian mining industry in light of its central role to economic diversification, foreign exchange earnings, and social inclusion. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Osita Ungo to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Osita Ungo.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. Thank you for this opportunity to move this very important motion. And I'd like to move it with all sense of responsibility and dedication to our dear country, Nigeria. This motion is to comprehensively review the input and output values of the Nigerian mining industry in light of its central role to economic diversification, foreign exchange earnings, and social inclusion. The Senate notes that virtually all economic development programs and fiscal documents ranging from the Vision 2020 report, the National Economic Empowerment Development Strategy, NEETS, the 30-year Infrastructure Master Plan Development Program, and the current midterm National Development Plans all identify the Nigerian mining sector as central to economic diversification and social inclusion. Aware that the several decades of policy incoherence and weak institutional disalignment, the economic potential of this sector to the gross domestic product of the economy has remained dismal. The Senate observed that while quarrying dominates the total output of mining sector with almost 90% contribution and an increasing growth rate that is largely driven by the products such as granite, gravel, marble, and other construction materials in high demand within the housing sector, the requisite benefit to the government are not significantly evident by the way of royalties. Cognizant that the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative, NAITI, Solid Mineral Industry Report 2020, indicates that the 5-year trend of solid mineral contribution to GDP from 2016 to 2020 has been inconsistent and fluctuating. While Nigeria gets less from the sector of about 0.45% in 2020, other African countries enjoy significant contribution from this sector to their GDP. For example, the sector contributes over 40% to the GDP of Botswana, and in Congo and South Africa, it's about 25% and 18% respectively. Also aware that the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, has been selling and is on the verge of concluding the privatization and commercialization of all public-funded facilities relating to the Nigerian mining and mineral sector. In spite of the fact that none of its privatization program has shown any concise beneficial impact to the mining industry, as it has severally pronounced. Concerned that despite the abundant mineral endowment of the country, their critical national importance and huge resources so far expended by the government, the contribution of the mineral sector to job creation, infrastructure development, and GDP of the economy remain one of the lowest across the African sub-Saharan region. Accordingly, resolves to mandate its committee, the Senate to mandate its Committee on Solid Mineral Development and other relevant committees to investigate the immediate and remote cause of the dwindling revenue derivable from solid mineral development in the country. Review the activities of the policy administrators, the policy executors, and the industry players at the policy formation, policy execution, and downstream, midstream, and upstream operations of the solid mineral sector. Ascertain the extent and impact of illegal mining activities and the extent of complicity of both local and expatriate industry players. Review all the BPE privatization or commercialization programs of all mining and mineral resources related programs from 1999 to date. I so move, Mr. President. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Karimi.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Karimi Sunday. I represent the people of Kogi West. Mr. President, I rise to second this all-important motion, and I want to call on my colleagues to support this motion. We know we are losing a lot of revenue from illegal mining of our solid minerals. And what this motion is calling for is for a proper review and to put things in proper place so that we can generate enough revenue from our mineral resources. So I rise up to second the motion as moved by my colleague.
Distinguished Senator Ome.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, I rise to support this motion. It is true that oil mineral deposits has been the major source of revenue earned by this country, Nigeria. It is regrettable that the vast solid mineral deposits we have littered all over Nigerian landmass has not been seen to be contributing meaningfully to the revenue base of the country. The reason for this is not far-fetched. People call it illegal mining activities. But I think that the problem is that people who have been charged with the responsibility of ensuring that the exploitation of these solid minerals will do everything to contribute to the revenue base of the country. They are mining these minerals for personal revenue appropriation to themselves. If you go to Ebonyi State, Kogi State, all the places you have quarries, where you see tons of quarries crushed, stones crushed, and sold to people who build houses, sold to people who build roads. We have not seen any significant increase in the contribution of this sector, apart from the very important mineral resources, like in the plateau, and so on and so forth. So there is need for the investigation of this sector by the Senate, as proposed in this motion. So I support this, because if we don't support it, if we don't do proper investigation, we continue to lose huge revenue that will have complemented our petroleum resource revenue accruing to this country. The issue is about royalties. They will tell you that they pay royalties, but these royalties they pay remain insignificant compared to what they cut away from what they generate. So I support this, and I believe it will be a way of making people who run government businesses to know that government businesses are no charity. They are supposed to contribute to the revenue block of the country, which the government today needs very urgently to be able to tackle all these reform programs and activities the government is trying to generate for the well-being of our economy. So I so support this motion and enjoin our colleagues to also do. Thank you, Mr. President.
Dismissed Senator Mongunu. 2 minutes.
Mr. Senate President, distinguished senators, my name is Mohamed Tahir Monguno. I represent Borno North Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished senators, this motion is apt and germane, especially against the backdrop of the gospel of diversification of the Nigerian economy away from oil to other sectors that will generate much needed revenue to the country, that is being preached and championed by the present administration in consonance with the renewed hope mantra of this administration. Mr. President, distinguished senators, it is a well-known fact that oil is a wasting asset. And the world is moving towards renewables. And as such, it behoves on us as a country to exploit the untapped mineral resources that we have in the country with a view to this sector contributing meaningfully to the growth of our GDP, earn more revenue, and deploy same for the purpose of bridging the infrastructure deficit that we have in the country with all its attendant and concomitant advantage of creating employment for our teeming unemployed youth, thereby reducing the avalanche of incidents of insecurity across the nooks and crannies of the country. So I adopt the prayers that is contained in the body of the motion, especially the need for the regulation of the sector with a view to bringing them in conformity with the rules and regulations that guides the modus operandi of the sector. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Ahmed Lawan, SP Emeritus.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Ahmed Ibrahim Lawan. I represent Yobe Senatorial District, my colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to support this very important motion. And in doing so, let me say that the solid minerals subsector contributes probably less than 0.3% to our GDP. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this is unfortunate and it's not acceptable because there is hardly any state in Nigeria today that does not have one very valuable solid minerals or the other. And I believe that we should exploit more and more of our solid minerals from today. Mr. President, in the last Senate, the 9th Senate, one of our legislative agenda items was to pass the PIB. And thank God we did, even though there are a lot of rooms for improvement on that. Mr. President, I want to suggest here that this 10th Senate takes up the issue of solid minerals development in Nigeria as one of its very, very important legislative interventions. Let it be one of those very critical sectors that we can now legislate, review the laws guiding the minerals, solid minerals development in Nigeria. What are those interventions that the federal government should do to make this sector more viable? If we do that, Mr. President, we would have helped this sector better than just glossing over, because this is a very, very important motion. So I suggest we take a step further. We had a round table engagement in the previous assembly on solid minerals development. But the honest truth is we didn't do enough. I think our committee on solid minerals development should be tasked to come up with action plan on how we move to intervene in this very, very crucial and critical sector of our economy. And let me also congratulate the sponsor of the motion. This motion, to me, is one of those very critical motions. And I want to add here, when the Minister of Solid Minerals was mentioned as the minister, I thought there is a very clear message that this is not an appointment that is just one-off, because everybody knows that the present minister is someone that everybody expects to go to information. So he must have some strategies, some action plans. Let's work with him and other stakeholders across the country to move this sector away from this unfortunate stand to something better for our country. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Danduse.
Danduse Mutari Mohammed, representing Katsina South. As a matter of fact, Mr. President, this motion is timely and is very important to the economic development of this country. Considering the fact of untapped resources we have in this country, which was taken away by criminal elements in most of the part of the country, that is why we have most of the insecurity problems in Nigeria. As a 10th Senate, Mr. President, under your leadership, we do appreciate to have a legislation on how to make sure that this sector is move into a very sustainable, and it will create employment. And in the Northwest alone, most of the criminals elements are depending on these very important solid minerals. They collaborate with locals and foreigners to siphon the economy and leaving the country under very hard and serious economic situation. So, Mr. President, it's a very important development, and we need to take measures to ensure that we put this country in a more responsive and more prosperous nation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. I associate myself with the speakers. The same Senator, now you have anything to add? Because what the meat of this motion will be the prayers. Because we have to take actions that are serious. So I think I would have said we go to the prayer, but unless you have something to add.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Ogoshionao. I represent Nasarawa South. I want to sincerely appreciate the mover of the motion, that it is timely, apt, and needed urgently. Sir, I want to bring to your attention that Nigeria is one of the very few countries in the world that does not have a regulated policy for our minerals operation. There is no local government out of the 774 local governments in Nigeria that does not have one form of minerals or the other. I was in Congo. I was going to go to one location that a certain mineral is being exploited. I was required to get a visa from inside Congo to go to that place. And because the visa regulation to go to that place was difficult, I couldn't go. Now, Nigeria is the only place that you find foreigners coming into our localities where you think people will not be there. You find foreigners mining there illegally. And if you have only 25 tons, only 25 tons of gold as at today is 1.5 trillion naira. And more than this is being taken out of this country on a daily basis without a kobo being paid as tax to government. You go to Nasarawa State today, lithium is being mined and taken out in hundreds of and thousands of tons without a kobo being paid to government. Sometimes you find helicopters landing and taking off in the night. We don't know what they are bringing, you don't know what they are taking out. And banditry is in the increase. And most of these banditries are as a result of this mineral. So investigating and finding a lasting solution to this will be of good to this country because it will increase our revenue. Well, how much is a liter of oil, sir? A liter of oil today, we are talking about 100 and something naira. But 1 gram of gold today is over 60,000 naira. And lots of other minerals that are yet to be discovered. So, sir, this motion is timely. It needs support of this legislation. And this Senate, under your leadership, I know will guide this country on the right path because this sector is more than the oil sector. Thank you very much, sir.
Let's end the discussions with our newest senator, who seems to have knowledge of this sector. Senior Senator Oduaga.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm Senator Natasha Akpotu-Uduaghan, representing the good people of Kogi Central. It's such an honor to speak today, having been sworn in today. I'd like to appreciate Senator Osita Ungo for sponsoring this motion. It would interest Nigerians or the Senate today to know that the National Iron Ore Mining Company is situated in my own very local government, which is Okehi local government. And of course, it's right to note that as much as we have the oil and gas resources situated in the southern part of Nigeria, we do have solid minerals up north. And in as much as we are concerned about generating revenue for the federal government and state governments as well, we should not forget about the host communities and their rights. I would like to draw attention to a critical situation which has been ignored, primarily the environmental degradation. If we close our eyes or turn a blind ear to the cries of the host communities, whereby we are only interested in extracting these resources, we would ignore the fact that some of these resources are hazardous to our environment and they could cause pollution and thereby endanger the health of our people, especially children. And if we do ignore this, then in the nearest future, we're going to have a situation which we presently have in the southern part, primarily the Niger Delta region, whereby the waters, the lands, and others are polluted. So what I would ask is, in as much as I do appreciate the points you've raised here, which we hope would develop into policies, we should expand it to include policies that will curb environmental degradation, the consideration of host community rights. I would like to mention that ever since the vast land, that is the mines, were carved out of my local government, not a penny has been paid since the 1970s to the host communities. And of course, in addition, since we're all about generating revenues outside the oil sector, we should consider an advanced seismic report, because presently, most of what we have carved out as, or listed out in the solid minerals report are out of the seismic studies done in the 1970s. And right now, we have a whole lot of minerals that are in use, from the rare earth minerals that we presently know Kenya and Ghana is blessed with. You will be surprised what we have lying in our own hills here. So I will also ask that we consider an advanced seismic report so we can have an updated list of new minerals that are discovered for the greater advantage of our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, distinguished Senator Odwagan. My distinguished colleagues, the meat of this motion will lie in the prayers, because there's no doubt that this is one area that we have neglected in terms of generating revenue for the federation of this country. This is one area that has led to banditry in Zamfara State and many parts of the country, including Kebbi State and others. This is one area that even in Niger and as close as Nasarawa, you see all sorts of foreigners. I remember a case of a kidnapped Chinese national I think it was it Nasarawa or Niger? Nasarawa. And when he was eventually released after 2 weeks, and they said, let them take him to the embassy for him to, he said no, that he was going back to the field, that they should release him to go back to the field. After being with the bandits for over 2 weeks, on his release, he refused to come to Abuja or Lagos to even go for medical checks. He said he wanted to go back to work. And the work was mining. So they released him and he went back to the bush. So on a daily basis, they are cutting away things you think are sand or you think are stone. And at the airport, our personnel are not trained to even know which one is copper, which one is uranium, which one is gold. Because gold is black until it passes through the furnace. That's when it shines and remains like that forever. So we are not even getting the commensurate revenue that we should get, talk less of taxes. And these items are not supposed to be, I found it, I own it. It ought to be something that belongs to Nigeria. And it should have been on the basis of shared revenue. If you are the one exploiting, when you bring it out, this is what it is. Just like we did in the oil sector, where Nigeria owns in some of the SPVs 60%, and then the mining company will take 40%. As far as solid minerals is concerned, those arrangements are totally non-existent. So I think we should go into the prayers, and within the prayers, we should put the meat that will help us in future to strengthen regulation and then put this sector in the right path to contribute to our GDP. So let me also join my voice to thank Senator Ositangu for raising more awareness in respect of the deplorable situation and the criminality going on in the mining sector in Nigeria. So we go to the prayers. Prayer 1, mandate the Committee on Solid Mineral Resources to A, investigate the immediate and remote causes of the dwindling revenue derivable from solid minerals development in the country. Those who are in support of prayer 1 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, review the activities of the policy administrators, the policy executors, and the industry players at the policy formulation. I'm reading what is here. Policy execution and the downstream, midstream, and upstream operations of the solid minerals sector. Those who are in support of prayer 2 say aye. Those against say nay. Well, the ayes have it. Prayer 3, ascertain the extent and impact of illegal mining activities and the extent of complicity of both local and expatriate industry players. Those who are in support of prayer 3 say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4, review all the Bureau of Public Enterprises privatization or commercialization programs of all mining and mineral resources related programs from 1999 to date. Those who are in support of prayer 4 say aye. And then those who are against say nay. The ayes have it. Can we have additional prayer? Yes, Senator Ome.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Senator Victor Ume. I represent Anambra Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, flowing from the second to the last paragraph of this motion, also aware that the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, has been selling and is on the verge of concluding the privatization and commercialization of all public funded facilities relating to the Nigerian mining and mineral sector, in spite of the fact that none of its privatization programs has shown any concise beneficial impact to the mining industry, as it had severally pronounced. I want to add an additional prayer because of this paragraph. I want to move that the Senate should include as additional prayer that the BPE, Bureau of Public Enterprises, should stop further sale of Nigerian mining corporation assets pending the outcome of the Senate investigations requested herein. I so move.
Any seconder? Yes, distinguished Senator Adjournment Williams.
Mr. President, my name is Senator Adjournment Williams. I represent Cross River Central. Having been convinced by the last prayer, which is the additional prayer, I so second that the prayers be adopted also as prayer 5.
Those who are in support of the additional prayer say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Senator Plank, you have something to say? Go ahead.
President of the Senate, my colleagues, I am Senator Dicket Plank. I would wish to add another additional prayer by saying the relevant Ministry of Solid Mineral and Steel Technology should increase research on mineral exploitation, exploration, and processing. I'm saying so because we lack exploration in minerals. We lack the knowledge of exploitation in minerals. And because of that, most of the things that are extracted in our land, we do not know them. But if we increase research on mineral exploration, exploitation, and processing, we will know what we have, and we can always own what we have. So,
But if you know what you have and you don't know what it is, I thought you would have talked about sensitization and public because if so far you don't know what you have, yes, so it's not the research. No matter what the research is, if the public does not know what is coming out of the ground, how does it help? Is any seconder? Any seconder? No seconder. Yes, Senator Farahonsi.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Adi Farahonsi from Osun East. We talk about enforcement. More stringent measures should be put in place by the security agencies to safeguard our solid mineral resources from being vandalized.
Senator Farahonsi says that we should urge the relevant security agencies to strengthen enforcement and surveillance of the exploitation sector to forestall continuous criminality and stealing of our mineral resources. Any seconder? Senator Onawo.
My name is Senator Mohamed Ogoshionao. I represent Nasarawa South. I stand to second the amendment or the additional prayers proposed by Father Hunsi, the Babalao.
So, the additional prayer as proposed has been seconded. Those who are in support say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Finally, Senator Azuko Ekweyon, yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, let me start by thanking the mover of this motion, Senator Osita Ngo. It is a very...
Additional prayer.
Additional prayers. I rise to call for the inclusion of the review of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation, and Fiscal Commission's computation of the indices and the revenues that accrue to the various states, how they come about it. I think in order for us to have a comprehensive review of this sector, we also need to understand the breakdown in which the revenues are shared to the various federating units, that's the federal government, the state government, and the local government when it comes to solid mineral revenues. I so second. Or I so move.
Any seconder to the additional prayer? No. So I think of the investigation report, that will come out. So since there is no seconder, that is abetted. So let me thank the Senior Senator Ositangu, and I assure you that I believe that you are the chairman of the Committee on Solid Minerals, right? Yes? So since you are very knowledgeable, we'll put the right people to work with you. And then this motion is a very key one. And the Senate will not want to wait for long to begin action on reviewing the legislations and policies with a view to making its contributions to the executive towards improving that sector so it can add to our GDP. So you have 3 weeks to get back to us. Distinguished colleagues, we have spent quite a day and we have exhausted all the items on the order paper. Therefore, just one small announcement. The House of the Court of Appeal is making final submissions and because its deadline expires on Saturday. So I believe that with that, we'll be able to ascertain our number and sit down and do our work. And therefore, to accommodate any, if any, which we don't wish for, we have moved the inauguration of the committees to Tuesday, right in this chamber, in order to allow them to conclude the exercises before Sunday. Therefore, this Senate is hereby adjourned to Tuesday, the 7th day of October at 11 a.m. prompt. 11th day of November. The Senate, I'm repeating myself, this Senate is hereby adjourned to the 7th day of November, 2023 at 11 a.m. prompt.